Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. Arch Linux has two ways to install it. When you load up the ISO, you can install it the traditional way, the manual way, by typing in all the commands in the TTY. And starting approximately around 3 years ago, they included an automated installer, a script on their ISO, so you can install Arch Linux faster and it's easier. And it's called Arch Install. Now, in my videos, I've done videos using both. I have videos where I show you how to install Arch Linux the manual way, the traditional way, by typing in all the commands in TTY. And I've also done videos where I show you how to use their automated installer, which is called Arch Install. Now, there's been some information on the internet over the years that you shouldn't use Arch Install because Arch Install stores your passwords in plain text, readable plain text. So today, I'm going to take a look at it and talk about it and see what it's all about. So, let's get to it. If you open up your web browser and go to Arch Linux website and go to the Arch Linux wiki, which is right here, and type in the search field Arch Install, it's going to bring you to this page. And it's the page that talks about their Arch Install, their automated installer. And now the funny thing is that it used to say somewhere in here that even though this is available, the recommended way of installing Arch Linux is the manual way or the traditional way. And those aren't the exact words. I'm trying to remember what it said. I'm sorry I didn't take a screenshot of it, but it was there probably even just a year ago or so. And they've taken that sentence out. Why? I don't know. So anyways, this is the page that talks about Arch Install or their automated installer. And it tells you right here, warning. Arch Install stores all user and secondary disk encryption passwords in plain text. Okay. And then it tells you a little bit more. And then down here, it tells you to boot up to the live ISO, type in Arch Install, and it takes you into the installer. And I have videos showing how to do that. Of course, I have videos showing how to install Arch the manual way, the traditional way. And I have quite a few videos showing how to use the Arch installer, or Arch installer, the automated installer, whatever you want to call it. And of course, if you want, you can read more about it down here. So where it tells you that it stores all the user passwords in plain text, it gives you a link. So if you click on the link, it takes you to this web page. And there's discussions on here going back to May 2022. So we'll say what, 2.5 years. And a couple years ago, I stumbled onto this and I started reading it. So when I first started using Arch Linux, I was using a third-party installer because Arch Install wasn't on the ISO. And I didn't know how to install it the manual way. I tried a couple times and failed. So I was using a third-party installer. Then eventually I learned how to install Arch the manual way, and I was installing it the manual way. And then one day I learned that they had an automated installer on their ISO. So I tried that, and it worked. So then I was doing both. Sometimes I was installing it the manual way, sometimes I was installing using Arch Install. The automated installer is really handy for me when you're making virtual machines, because I make virtual machines of Arch Linux all the time because I want to try something new, I want to experiment, I want to learn how to do something. So rather than making a virtual machine installing Arch the manual way, which takes more time and you got to type in all the commands, I use Arch Installer. It takes 5 minutes to do an installation, and I don't have to type in all those commands. So then one day, a couple years ago, I stumbled upon this. Maybe after I'd been using Arch Install for a year or so, even though I knew how to install Arch the manual way, I stumbled across this. And of course, this, like I said, this discussion goes back to May 1st, 2022. And you can read it. I'm not going to read it to you. But there's a discussion about Arch Install installing passwords in plain text. It tells you where they are, where to find them. It's in var log Arch Install user credentials. Okay. That's where the file is. There's lots of discussion going down here. Back to 2022, I'm just going to scan right down. There's a lot of back and forth. And let's go to the bottom. Now, this past October, so right now, today is December 1st, 2024. And you can see the date up here. And right now, this is my bare metal machine, my main production machine. It's running Arch Linux, manually installed, the traditional way. And I'm running the Spectre window manager. Anyways, that's besides the point. So you can see on October 20th of this year, just over a month ago, they're still discussing the issue. And finally, this person says on October 28th, was this issue ever fixed? From comments here, it looks like this was patched ages ago. And passwords are no longer stored in that JSON. Let's try to figure out what's going on. So I first read this article over 2 years ago, and I got a little bit scared. I got a little bit worried. So for a while, I stopped using Arch Install, and I made sure all my bare metal computers were installed the manual way, or the traditional way of installing Arch Linux, by typing in all the commands in the TTY. And by the way, just in case I didn't mention it already, when you install Arch Linux the manual way, the traditional way, by typing in all the commands in the TTY, this is not an issue. This issue only exists with Arch Install, or the automated installer, as I like to call it. So anyway, so now I'm on the December 1st, 2024 ISO. I always set the font like this: set font tier dash 132B. Okay, so now you can see this is the December 1st, 2024 ISO, and we're on kernel 6.12.1, the latest and greatest stable kernel. Yeah. Sorry. So normally, like I said, when I'm using Arch Install, or when I'm installing Arch Linux the manual way, the traditional way, I always make the font like this, because you know what? I can't stand it when Linux YouTubers are doing something in the terminal, or they're doing something in the TTY, and the font is so small, and when you're watching the video, you can't even see what they're typing in. They're typing in all these long, complicated commands, and you can't see anything. So I always do, sorry, I always make my font set font tier 132B. Now, in the new installer, it doesn't work properly with this font. So you end up on pages where you can't see it and you can't use it properly. Now, I don't know if that has to do with my monitor size, and I don't know if that's going to happen with everybody. So I can't use this font. Now, with the older installer, I was able to use tier 132B font, this nice large font, in Arch Install, the automated installer, but in the brand new version, it doesn't work properly. So set font. So this is the regular font that you boot up into. So I'm going to make it a little bit larger, but not giant. Okay. So I'm going to do set font tier dash 120B. So there, I hope you can read that. It's a little bit more readable. It's not as large as I like it to be for my videos, but this font still works in the automated installer, Arch Install. Let's clear the screen. Arch Install. And this page looks the same. But as we work our way through it, it's going to change. I'm going to go down to locales. I'm going to hit enter. And you can see, if you've ever used Arch Install before, the layout is a bit different. It looks different. I'm going to go to local language, hit enter, and see how that's in the center now. And I'm going to go up to English Canada, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to skip mirrors because I set the mirrors. I didn't use Arch Install to set the mirrors. I set the mirrors in the TTY off camera. Okay, and now I'm going to go to disk configuration, and I'm going to go to partitioning, use best effort default partition layout, and I'm going to put an asterisk there. It's a 40 gig virtual machine I created. Hit enter, and I'm going to make it ext4. Hit enter, and then I'm going to use my arrows to go back, and I'm going to go to disk encryption, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit enter again. Then I'm going to go down to encryption password, and I'm going to type my password in. I'm going to make this encryption password the word Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y. I'm going to put it in again, B-O-B-B-Y. Hit enter. Then I'm going to use my arrows to go down. I'm going to click on partitions. I'm going to put an asterisk there. So I'm encrypting 39 gigabyte, okay? Because it's going to use 1 gigabyte for the boot partition. And I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to use my arrow to go back. And swap, I'm going to hit enter. I'm just going to say no because I never use swap. Bootloader, I'm going to leave it on grub. I'm going to skip unified kernel images. Host name, I'm going to leave it the way it is, Arch Linux. And I'm going to put a root password in. And my root password is going to be Carol. And I'm going to put it in again. And I'm just putting in these names because I want to make it easy to do a search for the passwords to see if they're written in plain text in those other files. Now the user password, if you've been following my channel and watching my videos, I always make manually add a user and give him sudo privileges after my installation is done. Regardless of whether I'm using the automated installer or I'm installing Arch the manual way, I don't let Arch install make a user with a password and sudo privileges for me. I just do a base install. I disconnect the ISO. I boot into my new installation, and then I manually make a user with sudo privileges and a password. But I'm going to let Arch install do it for me this time, okay? So it says add a user. So my username is going to be Mensch. And I'm going to make the password David. And I'm doing these passwords for a reason. Now, should Mensch be a super user or sudo? And I'm going to say yes. So we have a username as Mensch. There's the password. Sudo is true. And now you could add another user, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to confirm and exit. And I'm not going to go to profile. And just in case you don't know, profile is a way that you can have the installer install a desktop environment or a window manager and apps for you. I'm going to skip that. And you know what? I'm going to skip audio too. The kernel is Linux. Now you should use audio, but I'm just going to do a base install because we're looking for passwords that are in plain text. And network configuration, I'm going to pick network manager. Additional packages, let's do Vim Terminus font. Okay, so we're installing Vim in Terminus font. And let's go down. Let's do time zone. Let's do /Canada. And let's go to Eastern Canada. Okay, so now we're ready to do the install. I'm going to hit install and then hit yes. And I'm going to pause the video and come back when the installation is finished. So don't go away. I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. So that took about maybe 2.5 minutes. Remember, it's just a base install. It does have a user, but there's no apps or window managers or desktop environments yet. So this is the page. It looks a little different from the last installer. Would you like to chroot into the newly created installation and perform post-installation configuration? Yes or no? Well, I mean, I never do it, but you can chroot into your system and make some changes before actually booting into it. So you could say yes, but I'm just going to say no. So let's hit no. It's already on no by default, so let's hit no. So now look at the bottom. I don't know why. Before it used to be at the top. Now it's at the bottom of the screen. So what does it say? And you know what? I'm going to make this larger print now. Now that we're finished using the installer, I'm going to make it the giant print that I like to use. That font tier -132B. That's better. So installation completed without any errors. Yay! Log files temporarily available at var log arch install. Okay, let's type that in. Let's go var log arch install, and let's clear the screen. Let's bring that to the top, and let's just do pwd. You can see we're in var. Now we're still on the ISO. I haven't rebooted into my new system yet. Okay, So I'm on var log arch install. So let's ls it. And can I ll it? Oh, that's better. Let's ll it. Let's just make sure my face is not in the way. So we see we have all these files here. Well, let's go one at a time. Let's vim into the first one. Vim, cmd, history, text. Let's do set numbers. Okay, let's see how long this file is. 67 lines. Okay, so let's go to the top. I guess it's a bit out of whack there because of the large font. Let's go to the top and let's do a search for password. Ah, look at that. On line 61, we have Mensch and David is the password. Now let's do this. Let's do Bobby. So Bobby is not in there. Let's do, we know David is there, right? There it is there. David is Mensch's password. And let's go into, so what did I have? I had Bobby, David, and Carol. Let's type in Carol. Carol was another password. There it is there. We can see root's password is Carol. Let's go. I didn't see Bobby there though. I don't see my encryption password in here. That's good. Let's get out of there and let's clear the screen. Let's LL again. Now let's go into CMD output text. Let's vim into CMD output text. Let's just do a search for, you know what? Let's do this. That NU. How long is this file? Ooh, ay. This file is 19, almost 2,000 lines. Yikes. Let's go to the top. Let's do a search for Bobby. It's not there. Let's do a search for Carol. It's not there. And that's why I made the passwords people's names, just so I could easily do a search for them. And let's do a search for David. So the passwords aren't in this file. Let's clear the screen. Let's do an LL. So the passwords are in the first file, CMD history text. They're not in the second file. Let's go into install log. Vim install log. And let's do set NU. And this file is 500 lines. Let's go to the top. So this install log, this is a log of your installation and all the choices that you made when you were using Arch install, configuring it to get ready for your install. Let's see if the passwords are here. Let's do David. No David. Let's do Bobby. No Bobby. Let's do Carol. No Carol. Okay, so the passwords aren't here. Oops, I don't want to save that. Let's get out of there. So now we've done 3. Now let's go to user configuration. Let's vim into user config. And let's see what's in here. This also looks like the install. This looks like my settings for Arch install to install this particular VM. So let's do David. Not there. Carol. Not there. Oops. Bobby. Not there. So it's not there. Okay, let's clear the screen and let's go into the last file, user credentials. Vim user. And there it is there. Look at this. Ooh, that's really easy to read. You can see at the top, let's just set NU. You can see on line 2, it says root password is Carol. Line 5 to 7, or actually 7 to 5, username is Mensch. He has sudo privileges. Sudo is true. And the password is David. And then line 10, you can see encryption password is Bobby. So let's get out of there. Let's clear the screen. Let's do ls. So out of all these files, there's only 2 files that have our passwords written in plain text. Not good, eh? So it would be the first one and the last file. And the last file is really clear. So logged on to the ISO. We haven't booted into our system yet. So now what I'm going to do is boot into the system. Now let's just do pwd again. So remember, we're in /var/log/archinstall. So let's reboot and let's make that full screen because this is a virtual machine, right? And this is encrypted. So Bobby used the encryption password. So I'm going to type in BOBBY. And this part, I can't make it large font, or I don't know how to do it. Now, of course, we're just going to be going into TTY because I don't have a window manager installed or a desktop environment installed or any apps. So let's just go into, should I go into root? Let's go into root. And what was the password for root was Carol. Set font tier dash 132B. That's better. Let's cd into var log arch install. Let's clear the screen. Let's just make sure we're in the right thing. So we're in /var/log/arch install. Let's clear the screen. Let's do an LL. Oh, because this is bash. Let's do that. So all those files, so now we've booted into the system. We're no longer on the ISO, okay? We've booted into our system. All those other files are gone. They're all gone. There's only one file there, and it's called install log. So let's vim into it. Vim install log. And let's just set the font. Oh, sorry, let's set numbers. Let's go to the bottom. So 361 lines. Let's go to the top. And let's see if our passwords are here. Let's do /Bobby. Bobby is not there. /Carol. Carol is not there. And /David. David is not there. Let's quit out of there. Let's do an ls-a again. So the only file that's in there, all those other files are gone. The only file that's there remaining is install log, and it doesn't have our passwords in there. Now, just while we're here, let's exit. Let's cd into our user. My user is Mensch, and the password was David. Okay, so now I'm logged into Mensch. And let's do cd/, let's cd into var, let's cd into log, let's cd into arch install. Okay, now we've gone back into the same folder, right? We're in /var log arch install, but we're in as mentioned, not as root. Just want to see ls-a. The only thing there is the install log. And we know the install log doesn't have our passwords, right? And Bobby and Carol. Okay, now, so let's get out of there. So our passwords are not available in clear plain text in our installation. Now the question might be, but are our passwords installed on the ISO? And if someone uses that ISO or gets a hold of that thumb drive with the ISO on it, will they be able to see our passwords? Well, let's do a new install. So what I'm going to do is shut down this. Shut down now. And I'm going to close this. Let's start a new VM. And now we booted onto the ISO. So I'm going to do set font tier dash 132B. We're on the ISO. We haven't done an install yet, but we've gone back onto the same ISO and we want to see if somehow those passwords have been recorded onto the ISO. Let's do / do ls. Let's cd into var ls. Let's cd into log ls. And there's no arch install there. Wait a minute. Let's clear the screen. Let's do pwd. So we're in /var/log, but we're not in /arch install. Let's do an ls again. And let's do an ll. So there's no arch install because we haven't used the install script. We used this same ISO to do an install a few minutes ago. or 45 minutes ago, right? But nothing got recorded. So there isn't even a folder called Arch install. So when you use the install script, Arch install, the automated install script, it makes a folder called Arch install and installs those 4 files in there. Or was it 5? Whatever. Okay. But once you shut down the machine and pull out your thumb drive or disconnect your ISO, that's it. That folder called Arch install with those files and the 2 files that have your password in plain text are not recorded onto the ISO, and they're not recorded onto your thumb drive. Okay? Now, if you want to try it, let's vim into last log. What's that? Should spell it right. Can't read that. What's that old? Well, we know the old isn't going to be there because it's dated November 21st and today is the 1st. Let's vim into private. That's dated December 1st. Let's cd into private. There's nothing in there. I wonder what's in journal. Let's cd into journal. ls it. Just says remote. Cd into remote. ll. Nothing in there. I wonder what's in audit. Let's cd into audit. Nothing in there. And that's it. In this video, I talked about the issue of passwords being stored in plain readable text when using Arch install, the automated Arch Linux installer. Then I did an install and I showed you where your passwords are stored in plain readable text and how they're only stored temporarily, so that when you reboot into your new system, they're gone. You can't see them or read them. They're gone. And they are not permanently recorded onto the ISO or onto the thumb drive. So the next time you use that ISO or that thumb drive, they're not there anymore. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mensch.